Good morning, students. Today I am going to tell you something about plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism. So these are all the things that today we are going to discuss, right? So you should know the meaning of plagiarism. Actually, plagiarize means to steal or intellectual theft. Intellectual theft. You just understand the word intellectual. That is someone going to steal others' knowledge. அடுத்தவங்களோட அறிவை நாம திருடி நம்மளோட அறிவு மாதிரி நம்ம ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்றது தான் plagiarism, right? So actually the aim of a good research is to produce good knowledge, but nowadays plagiarism is a major problem for research. So it is one of the important issues of universities in recent years. Because of technology, now plagiarism running everywhere. So it is a common that to copy and paste. So this is the common one in every day, right? And it is also, plagiarism is an old tool. It is an old tool, but nowadays it gets a new shape in the form of technology. Then actually, what is plagiarism? Now, Merriam-Webster's dictionary simply defines plagiarizing as committing literary theft. Plagiarism is presenting another person's ideas, information, expressions, or entire work as one's own, and it is thus a kind of fraud, deceiving others to gain something of value. That is plagiarism. And it is always a serious moral and ethical offense. So plagiarism is an offense. Then people are nowadays quite lazy, that they never think about anything fresh, and they never do their work as they never like to do their work themselves, right? So they are quite different in their work, especially in their research. So what makes plagiarism a serious offense? Actually, plagiarism is the greatest offense. If you do or if you plagiarize, you should face some problems in your future. Here there is an explanation. What makes plagiarism a serious offense? Plagiarists are seen not only as dishonest but also as incompetent, incapable of doing research and expressing original thought. So they are incapable, incompetent, and they are failed to express their own original thoughts. When professional writers, when best writers are exposed as plagiarists, they are likely to lose their jobs and are certain to suffer public embarrassment, diminished prestige, and loss of future credibility. They lose everything if they find that they are plagiarized. So this is the problem. Actually, the charge of plagiarism is serious because it calls into question everything about the writer's work. Everything about the writer's work. So the charge is quite serious, right? So nowadays schools consider plagiarism a grave matter. The schools consider plagiarism a grave matter for the same reason. If a student fails to give credit for the work of others in one project, how can a teacher trust any of the students' work? So plagiarism undermines the relationship between the teachers and the students. So that is a problem. Plagiarism undermines the relationship between the teachers and the students. Instead of mentors, fostering suspicion instead of trust. Actually, the teachers became detectives instead of mentors, and they get a lot of suspicion about the students instead of trust, and making it difficult for learning to take place. So that is a problem. So teachers and everyone, all the people nowadays, they consider that plagiarism a grave matter. So students who plagiarize deprive themselves of the knowledge they would have gained if they had done their own writing. So plagiarism is a modern problem. It has a lot of forms. Plagiarism has a lot of forms. So the next one, what does plagiarism look like? What does plagiarism look like? So plagiarism can take a number of forms. Plagiarism can take a number of forms, including buying papers from a service on the internet, reusing work done by another student, and copying text from published sources without giving credit to those who produce the sources. That is the problem, that without giving credit to those who produce the sources is an offense. All forms of plagiarism have in common the misrepresentation of work not done by the writer as a writer's own. So it has different forms. Turning in someone else's work as your own, that is offense. Or copying words, even words. If you copy a word means that is also a plagiarism. So even copying words or ideas from someone else without giving credit, it is an offense. Or failing to put a quotation in quotation marks, that whatever you take from other sources, you have to put that information within quotation. That is important. Giving incorrect information about the source of a quotation, that is also wrong. Then some people are very clever that they simply change the words. They copy everything from other sources and they change the words. Right? So changing words but copying the sentence structure of a source without giving credit also an offense. That is plagiarism. So plagiarism is an act of fraud. It involves both stealing someone else's work and lying about it afterward. We are not only going to steal, but we are going to lie. We are going to say the information that's our own. That is plagiarism. So it appears in different forms, right? But stealing part of text and rephrasing it is severe problem in humanities and literature. Actually, stealing part of text from others and we simply rephrasing it. Rephrasing, you know the meaning, rephrasing it is a severe problem in literature, right? So now actually plagiarism, it has very major two kinds of plagiarism are there. So the first one is, some people they plagiarize, right, with the intention. They do that work by intention, with complete interest. So plagiarism can be divided into two types. The first type is intentional plagiarism, where the author is fully aware of the plagiarism. They know well that they are copying, but they are willing to do it. That is intentional plagiarism. The second type is unintentional plagiarism, that they may they are quite lack of skill in writing. They don't know what to write and how to write. So that is unintentional plagiarism. So the two major types are there in plagiarism. But as a student, as a scholar, they should avoid plagiarism. Better you acknowledge certain materials has been borrowed, or providing your audience with the information necessary to find that source. So you have to mention the real writer's details in your quotation. But at the same time, the students have their own problem, that the limit between plagiarism and research is not so clear. What to get and what not to get, the limit is not so clear in research. Right? So these are all the problems that nowadays the students are facing in the name of plagiarism. So it is a serious offense and it should be avoided. So this we have a lot of examples here. Then how can you avoid plagiarism? How can you avoid plagiarism? Actually, why students plagiarize? Actually, why students plagiarize? Why? Because they are quite lack of understanding. They don't know how to read a book, and they feel quite difficult to understand the message. That is the first point. So when they are not familiar with proper way of quoting or paraphrasing or citing, they plagiarize. They don't know what to do, how to do. So that is, they simply copy. Second one, time management. That the students, some nowadays the students, they like to complete their work within a limited time. So they are quite lazy. So students, they simply complete the work in a short way. So most of the students nowadays, they find short ways to complete their work. And some students are very clever and they have negative values. So they simply copy. They never feel any guilty of copying others' work. But the best way is you just acknowledge the contribution of others. Right? So how to avoid plagiarism? The first one, you just mention the name of the writer, real writer. First one. Second one, you put all the information within quotation marks. Second point, we can avoid plagiarism. That this is not mine, this is information from so and so. I just put the quotation here, and I mention the real writer's information under the quotation. That is important. Then understand the material completely. If you don't like to plagiarize, means understand the material completely and try to write in your own words. Try to write in your own words. That is not plagiarism. So if you have any doubt in the information, means better you avoid that information. Never include that information in your thesis, in your research. You must avoid that. At the same time, you have a lot of doubts about some information, means better you consult your guide, your teacher. So whatever you get, you have to give the credit to the writers. That is important. So in that way, we can avoid plagiarism. Right? So the most important is that you check with your instructor if you are unsure about the way that you are using a particular source. So that is an important point. And you have to read and read and read to understand the message. Then you write. As well as you have to check the website. Never miss any person's details that you put already in your research, means you have to mention the real writer's details. That is important. Then the last one, does absence of documentation indicate plagiarism? In plagiarism, some things, some information, you need not to mention the documentation. You need not to mention the documentation in the work citers. Why? Because some informations are quite common for all. For example, biography of a great writer. You need not to mention about the biography's details. The citation. Right? Documentation is not required for every type of borrowed material. Information and ideas that are common knowledge among your readers need not to be documented. Common knowledge includes information widely available in reference works, such as basic biographical facts about prominent persons and the dates and the circumstances of major historical events. You need not to document. Right? In the historical events, you need not to document. Why? Because people know about all those things in the historical facts. So you need not to mention those things. But if you are doing a research in a rare way, you have to mention the details. You have to give complete details about the issues in the work citer. That is important. So this is the message in this title, Plagiarism and the Academic Dishonesty. So a good student should avoid plagiarism and they should know how to write a thesis in the right way. Better you use your own words. Right? So thank you so much.